It's all right, I was just calling members to order then. Got plenty of time to gossip once we've finished. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this planning meeting of Melton Borough Council. I'm Councillor Pam Posnett, Chair of Planning. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist anyone who needs any assistance. Please put your phone to silent during this meeting. We will be using the audio visual system this evening, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. Members speaking, please raise your hand if you wish to speak and speak directly into the microphone in front of you. Remember to turn it off once you have finished. Members voting will be by raised hands. I would like to introduce those present. In alphabetical order, we have Councillor Brown, Councillor Chandler, Councillor Douglas, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Illingworth, Councillor Pritchett, Councillor Smith, Councillor Webster and Councillor Wood. Councillor Steadman is absent. We have a team of officers present who are to my left, the Interim Assistant Director for Planning, Paul Fahili, the Planning Development Manager, Louise Parker, Senior Planning Officer, Andrew Cunningham, and Planning Officer, Helen White. To my right, I have our Planning Solicitor, Tom Pickwell. And at the bottom of the table, we have our Democratic Services team present, assisting with the technology and taking the minutes, Helen Ainge and Sarah Evans. The only apologies for absence are from Councillor Steadman, as I've said. We've got the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of March 2022. Can we confirm that the minutes of that meeting are a true representative? So can I have a proposer? Councillor Brown, and a seconder, Councillor Holmes. Any declarations of interest? Anybody has got? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I'm going to declare an interest in the first item, which is the 2101-213 VSE in Asserby. Main reason being is I work for Advanced Housing. I'm the head of housing for that housing association, and we manage a number of properties on behalf of East Midlands Homes and lease a number of properties. I don't feel it'd be appropriate either way for me to take part in the debate, so I will remove myself to the back of the room at that stage.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't know whether you want me to declare any sort. I haven't got any interest in the Land Lane application. I don't have any interest whatsoever, but it is in my ward and I haven't talked to anybody. But whether you prefer me to not have anything to say, I don't mind, or vote.
There's no issue.
Right,
Councillor Holmes, you can speak on it when we come to that application. I would just like to declare my personal interest as a member of Leicestershire County Council if there are any issues come up tonight relating to Leicestershire County Council. We now go on to our schedule of applications. So our first application is the 21/01-213 land between Regency Road and Asfordby Bypass. And I would like Helen White to speak on that application, please.
Thank you, Chair. Before we go into the application, I'd just like to let you know that I have received a late written representation after the report was finalised, the committee report was finalised. It's an objection mainly, broadly in support of the comments made by the parish council. So the concerns raised in this letter of objection have already been addressed in the officer's report. And for the application, this application is located on Asfordby Road, Bypass Road in Asfordby. planning permission was granted in 2016 for an outline permission for 55 houses. This application seeks to vary conditions 20 and 21 attached to the outline application, specifically to remove reference to play areas and play equipment from those conditions. The overall level of open space provided within the application site would remain the same. There's an open area you may see towards the centre of the site. So originally that is where play equipment would have been located. But with the variation of condition sought, it will just be retained as open space available to future occupiers of the site. And it will be available for kind of general informal play or social interactions, but it won't be a formal play area or an equipped play area within the application site. Prior to this meeting, discussions have been had with the parish council to see whether they would be willing to take on either responsibility for the provision of or the ongoing funding of the play area in the site as an alternative to it being provided by the developer. However, this isn't something that the parish council wish to proceed with. Since the outline application was approved, there's been a change to the planning policy context for the application. So when the outline application was considered and determined, it was under the 1999 Melton local plan, and there was a policy HN11 which required the provision of play space or play areas and equipped play areas dependent on the scale of the residential development coming forwards. That's been superseded by policy EN7 in the current Melton local plan. That only requires the provision of play space or play equipment if there's an identified local deficit. The background papers for the current local plan, where this site is located within the central area for that assessment, identifies no local deficit for play areas or play equipment. Therefore, this application is put forward with a favourable recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Any questions? Rebecca?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. By no local deficit, could you sort of give us a value as to what that means? Thank you.
Yes, so it's the Melton Space Study Open Space Assessment Support, which was a 2014 document which made an assessment of what the existing local play provisions were within the borough. So it was a borough-wide assessment. In policy EN7, which is the open space sport and recreation policy, it requires the provision for children and young people at 0.13 hectares per 100,000, per 1,000 of the population. And that is what is currently provided within the central area. And that's why there's considered to be no deficit. So that's the most up-to-date document we have. And that's what's been used to make that assessment.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to ask, you did, I don't try to be difficult, but you did say in 2014, didn't you? And so are you taking into consideration that we're in now 22 and it's a very, very different population? Thank you.
I have had a discussion with the planning policy team, and they have confirmed that policy EN7 is an up-to-date planning policy, and there's no conflict with the NPPF. So yes, the document's dated from 2014, but it's still relevant. Thank you.
Councillor Chandler?
Can't hear you, Paul.
600 metres is the nearest equipped play area, I take it from the report. Do we have any legislation that goes for ages? Because, I mean, I think for 3 and 4 year olds, for them to have to go nearly half a mile to an equipped play area is quite a long way. And we keep talking about youngsters are getting fat. They're fat, always playing on computers and tabloids and all that sort of thing. And I would have thought, you know, we should be encouraging children to play and not to, because it's a deterrent if a parent's got to take them getting on for half a mile. So is there anything in legislation about that? I can't find anything. I had a quick look yesterday, but I couldn't find anything.
To answer that, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing in legislation that requires the provision of a play area within a certain distance. There is guidance that is used, and that's referred to in the officer's report. And the guidance is an equipped play area within 400 metres of a site. However, there are non-equipped play areas within a shorter distance. And as I've said, in this case, although it's not identified as formally an unequipped play area, there would be open space within the site that would be similar to a play area for informal play, so not equipped. And also with regards to the existing play provision within Asfordby, this site has improved pedestrian links to both the play area to the east on the Jubilee ground, and then there's improved pedestrian safety measures to cross the road to get to the school, and then the equipped play area to the west of the site on Glenfield Close.
Chairman, when I went to the site in 2000 and whenever it was, I met the school coming out, and that was horrendous. And there were children and parents were saying that somebody recognised me and said that no cars should be coming down here at school times. Now, I think we could be causing a problem here. Has it ever been put to the parish council that if the developer equipped an area with play equipment, that the parish council would take on the maintenance? Because it is the maintenance, I think, which is the kill cow, because they have to be maintained and regularly inspected. Has that been done or not?
If you'd like me to answer, with regards to traffic, as I said, traffic calming measures have been secured via a planning condition attached to the outline application. So those traffic calming measures have been approved but haven't yet been implemented. And with regards to discussions with the parish council, yes, the question was put to the parish council: would you be willing to provide the play equipment, or would you be willing to take on ongoing maintenance of play equipment if it was provided within the site? And East Midlands Housing, as the developer, was open to have discussions with the parish council into funding streams that would have been available potentially for the provision of equipped play equipment within the site, and it was not something the parish council was open to pursuing.
Councillor Pritchett?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay at the back? Thank you. 2 questions. Obviously, the first one is there'll be an indicative number of new homes in the local plan for Asfordby, including Windfall. I know for Bottisford, the numbers are forecast to be significantly over. what is the forecast for Asfordby? In other words, if the forecast for Asfordby is significantly over, then it may have an impact on the original figures and the plan. And the second question is, in the emerging Asfordby neighbourhood plan, it states the new housing developments we are planning are well located in relation to existing play areas. Rather than provide new locally equipped areas for play, it would be better if the new development contributed to the improvement of existing play areas. Has the parish council made any Section 106 claim of a proportionate amount to contribute to new equipment and wear and tear relating to the 55 houses?
Please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So in regards to both of those elements, I want members to focus on the conditions that are in hand here. So the removal of the equipped play area and the maintenance of it. Your points are very valid in terms of the number of houses, and it's not something we have to hand now. I don't feel that is important to the decision that we're discussing here, but by all means I can find that information for you. With regards to the neighbourhood plan and the Section 106, Section 106 was secured at outline, so again is a previous application to what we're discussing here. The neighbourhood plan we have looked at, and if you look within the report, it's at a very early stage. So we've actually said that it contributes very limited weight. So it's a document in process and not something that we've hung any weight on to get to our recommendation this evening.
The question, did at the first initial outline, was any money claimed for play areas, even though it's before they started drafting the neighbourhood plan?
I will have a look for you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No, fine. Well, we have got one speaker to. Oh, sorry, Helen.
Just to answer with regards to the outline application, there wasn't a request made by the parish council for a monetary contribution.
Thank you, Helen. As I was saying, we have got one speaker tonight, and I'm using my discretion as the chairman to allow Mr. Forster to come and speak. He wants to speak against the planning application. If Mr. Forster would take a seat at the table at the bottom. Good evening, Mr. Forster. If you can speak into the microphone, if you press the face button in the middle, your microphone will go red.
Yep.
That's it, it's on. You have 3 minutes, and when you're about 30 seconds away, I'll remind you that you come into the end of the 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. To be honest, what I was going to talk about is quite irrelevant from what has obviously been said by yourselves. I'm Mark Forster, 32 Regency Road. My garden overlooks the housing estate. So yeah, the only sort of things I was going to say was in the original plans, in the field at the back, there was like a dividing hedge, which made it sort of 2 fields. That in the original plans was supposed to stay, but that was bulldozed down straight away. I did bring it to some environmentalist attention as well, that in that hedgerow was bats and an owl that have obviously recently moved on. And as far as I'm concerned, if this was the original plan, that is in gross breach of their contract anyway. Moving on from that, I do speak on behalf of all the residents in Asfordby that are putting up with what's gone on. We know there was 55 houses. Nobody's happy about it. Nobody was. But at the moment, you know, it's the continuing noise that we hear, the mud clouds that come into the
Mr.
garden.
Forster, I'm very sorry.
I know you're sort of going to say that this is irrelevant of what, you know, as if I'm sitting here moaning, but it is actually relevant to all the people that have put up with this.
Okay, if I can just refer to the chairperson. If you don't consider it relevant, you can ask the speaker to stop. So the application is only to look at the condition relating to the play area.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
I appreciate the points you've got,
Yeah.
but I'll refer to the chair.
Well,
I do appreciate the remarks you're making, Mr. Forster, but that is not what we're looking at tonight.
yeah,
I think
know.
we're all quite well aware of people's feelings in Asfordby because they've made them known as we've gone and had a look at the development and how it's going. So if you've got nothing to say about what we're actually talking about tonight, then I'm sorry, there is no point in you speaking.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. From what you're sort of saying, if it's going to be kept as it is, then that's okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you for your time. Now, members, we're open for debate. So, Councillor Illingworth.
I did mention to a fellow councillor this evening that I might not have a lot to say tonight, and here I am first. So, déjà vu, beware indicative plans, beware outline plans. Developers seem very adept at responding to new legislation which becomes more favourable to them. And I'm sure all around this table, we share the disappointment that a carrot of some equipped play area was dangled and now it's been withdrawn. Because hey ho, there's a new policy that means you don't have to do it. This permission was granted under a policy where you did. And it just disappoints me immensely that it's all about the houses and it's never about anything that is needed to go with them. And I find it very difficult to support what looks like a fairly innocuous variation. But to me, it's quite a significant one because it's a recurring theme, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Illingworth. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. So at Melton Borough Council, we're all about helping people and shaping places. I fail to see how this is going to help anyone in the long run by removing these conditions. The benefits of physical activity for young children far outweigh any of the costs that the developer may come to from having to stick with these conditions. And, you know, we, as Councillor Chandler said earlier, we need to be looking at the health and the well-being of our residents right from an early age. And I, like Councillor Illingworth, I'm going to find it very difficult to support this. I don't see how, you know, the removal of play equipment when it's been offered to begin with, I can't support that really.
Councillor Chandler.
Chairman, I'm going back on what I've previously said. Is there any mileage in trying to get the parish council and the developers to talk, please? Because I'm sure if the developers put the equipment there, it's the parish council that have got to pick up the bill, but they'll get more precept for Asfordby. I mean, another 50 odd houses.
Can I just say, Councillor Chandler, the parish council have been asked, the chairman of the parish council have been asked. The parish council did not ask for any 106 money at the start of this development towards anything. And that was their opportunity to ask for it. And the chair of the parish council has said that the parish council are not prepared to fund it. So I can only give you the answer that the chair of the parish council has given us at Melton Borough Council. And, you know, policy's changed. We don't make policy. We have to uphold policy.
As Councillor Smith has said, we've got the welfare of the children.
And I don't disagree with anything that anybody has said
And
tonight,
I
councillor.
do think it's not traffic free around there.
No.
It's quite busy.
Yeah.
And I would like, you know, to have seen the parish council and the developer sit and have a talk. I'm sorry, but there's no point in me moving a deferment to let them talk, because you think it's going to be
No, I
fruitless.
don't think so, because, you know, the chair of the parish council has given his answer to us. Pritchett.
Chair, the request before us tonight is not inconsistent with the view of the parish council. The parish council note at policy A15 in their emerging neighbourhood plan of local areas for play, small landscaped areas. They do not state play equipment. I mentioned before, it says the new housing developments we are planning are well located. Rather than provide new locally equipped areas of play, it would be better if the new development contributed to the improvement of the existing play areas. And I'll just add to that, Appendix B of the developer contributions, SPD, item 3 on their list of priorities, play area improvements. Refurbish and enhancement of the Asfordby Valley Children's Play Area and Asfordby Hills Play Area as a secondary. Now, I don't know whether any of that is relevant. They seem to possibly have missed the boat with section 106 claims. But on a general note, for your awareness, Chair, and Mr. Fahili, EN7 has not treated rural locations kindly. We went through a time-consuming process of identifying your needs for the supplementary planning document, and you will find all the appendix with rural areas, and including my own for Bottisford, which includes a play area and other things. And as soon as we'd finished it, a local planning expert says it counts for nothing because EN7 they're not being identified, and that is by a 2014 process that I'm not too sure was very, I don't consider it that thorough, and particularly when you take into account the housing numbers that have gone over the indicative plan. And I do believe within 1 or 2 words it was included in the identified revision areas for the local plan document that came to last week's council. So it's I think I've made a point relating to this application, and then made the point wider, that it's got wider implications. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Am I right in thinking we are dealing what is now, not what was past? Because it seems to me that really we should be dealing what was past, but not what is now, because that is what happened then, but they want to change it. Well, if they accepted what was, then really we don't have any option but to go with what was, not what is now. Do you understand what I'm saying? Many moons
Just a moment, Mrs. Holmes. Let our solicitor speak.
I can probably answer that quite
Oh,
quickly.
thank you.
It's what we call a section 73 application. It's effectively a new permission for that. So we judge it at this point now on today's policies.
But then we actually are not, to me, taking into consideration what will be now then, because it's a play area and there are children. There are going to be more children. And to me, It is not a safe area. It comes right down. It's very fast. That it's not supposed to be, but on the bypass, cars go very fast down there, and children are children. The gentleman actually mentioned, and I know this isn't a play area, but he mentioned about the hedges. If they can do one or two things, they can do lots of things. I'm disappointed that the parish council are not taking up the play area, because in my area, both parish councils do just that. But I find this very tricky to understand the developers, well, perhaps not, and the parish council, but we have to look for our young people. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Smith, I'll allow you to come back.
Sorry, all I was going to say was very similar to what Councillor Holmes has said, so thank you.
Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, actually putting in the play equipment itself is going to be expensive enough, but I understand that the crux of the matter may be the maintenance of that play equipment over the years. However, if it's open land and not to be built upon, then it's still going to be maintained by somebody. And I wouldn't have thought there was much difference in maintaining a play equipment area than a piece of open land. I mean, personally, I'd like to see, oh, there's a lot of difference. Oh, that's interesting.
If it's an open play area, all they'll do is mow the grass. If it's an equipped play area, they have to have regular health and safety inspections that they have to pay for, that then they have to maintain because of the safety of the children. The beauty for some people, and I'm not saying this is my personal opinion, an open play area allows children to use their imagination and to take their own toys there and play with their own things there. That's the difference between one that's equipped and one that's open.
Thank you for that clarification. Then it does make a big difference. Personally, I would have thought that an open area, if we don't have the play equipment, we'll still need probably a bin, maybe a bench. These things are other considerations. I just wanted to comment, really. Generally, I'm going along with the spirit of the evening, in that I just felt, given the number of houses, that it's a little bit mean-spirited to take away some play equipment that had been promised. It just seems a small thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I may just make an observation, which hopefully in the spirit of the meeting is here to help. This is difficult. It's always emotive, isn't it, when we talk about play equipment and its removal? You know, it sort of smacks of taking sweeties away from babies in some respects. What we need to do, though, is focus on what the material planning consideration is for consideration tonight, and that's quite simple. That's down to what is the relevant current policy within the adopted Melton local plan. And you've heard from officers this evening that the current policy and the evidence behind that suggests that there is no deficit of this particular type of facility within this area. And that, unfortunately, is what we've got to focus on. That's what you've got to make your decision based on. So I just, I suppose, conclude that thought by just a reflection that, you know, a desire to have play equipment cannot trump an actual identified or evidence-based need contained within established and adopted policy. So I think it's just hopefully a clarification between a desire to want something versus our ability to insist on a retention based on evidence and policy. Thank you.
Councillor Douglas.
If we are so bound by the policy of the local plan, with greatest respect through the chair, why does it come to committee at all, and why is this decision not delegated to the officers? Thank you.
So the application is brought before committee due to the outline and the reserve matters being determined at committee and in discussion with the chair.
Councillor Pritchett.
I think what might be making this look appear worse than it is that even at the last minute, the parish council haven't approached the housing association and possibly secured a voluntary contribution towards the play areas, even though the formal say, and that would have made it look a lot easier to us, but they haven't. But as I say, I take Mr. Feely's comments.
There are no more comments. I think we've really debated this well. And so we're now down to proposers. So have we got anybody proposing permit? It's a regulation. Oh, sorry. Can I have a proposal from somebody about the way we're going? Propose. Propose what?
What you're putting before us to remove the condition for play equipment, but an open play area should remain under covenant that cannot have no ball games and all the other stuff that stops kids playing or has something built on it, blah, blah, blah. You get the feeling.
You can't add that to the proposal because it's a public open space. So are you still proposing that we go along with the officer recommendation for permit?
Yes.
Thank you. Right, we've had a proposal for permit. Can I have a show of hands in favour? Seconder, sorry. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, I'll happily second.
Right, we've had it proposed and we've had it seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour? Okay. Against?
If I may, Chair, please may I have my vote recorded?
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, the motion has failed. We need a new motion. Councillor Smith.
Would it be possible to propose refusal based on local need? I believe there is a local need if this was last looked at in 2014 and the nearest play area is 600 metres away as opposed to the 400 required. So I will propose refusal on those grounds.
So just to make members aware, the information provided in regards to the background papers and the identified need is a formation of documents that form the local plan. So the local plan remains up to date and it remains in line with the National Planning Policy Framework. So therefore, my advice to members would be that local need is not something that we would identify a suitable reason for refusal as my advice.
Is that your proposal, Councillor Smith?
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, can I just give some quick legal advice? If that is the proposal, I probably do need to state that, as Louisa said, if that was to go to appeal, they would look at the development plan, so the neighbourhood plan and the local plan. I can't say with certainty that you'd be able to defend that very well because actually the policies don't support it very well. So I've got to give you that legal advice. That's not my opinion. It's just my advice on success if it was appealed.
I need a seconder for Councillor Smith's proposal. Are you seconding that, Councillor Illingworth?
No, I was going to make.
Right, well, no, you're not, so. It wasn't, I asked him if he was going to second it, but he's not. So we can't take any more until somebody seconds it. So Councillor Douglas?
Yes, I would like to second that proposal. I'm aware of the arguments for allowing this application. However, I am little mystified as to why it's come to the table at all. And I know our hands are tied, but if it comes to a vote, then we are free to vote how we feel given the circumstances. So I would like to second that down to my conscience only. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just confirm that, I think Louise has already alluded to the fact. So the reason this particular matter has come to committee is there's within the planning procedure rules within the Constitution, it's any matter that the Director for Growth and Regeneration, in consultation with the Chair, considers likely to raise matters that should be referred to committee. And because the previous applications did come to committee, it was believed that this application should therefore be brought back to you as members to make that decision. I appreciate that it may feel as if hands are tied. There is now a motion on the table that has been moved and seconded. Can I just confirm the reasons for that so that we can minute that and note it? So you said local need. Is there any policy that you want to quote with that as well, Councillor Smith?
Health and safety. Thank you. Sorry, can I just what was that? Yeah, sorry, it was health and safety, yeah.
Sorry, on what basis are we raising it? Are we making reference to a neighbourhood or local plan policy, or just
So
are we quoting that as a material consideration?
on the basis of that, I believe it would be of detriment to the health and well-being of children potentially living in those houses if this was to be removed.
So in terms of health and safety and well-being, if we move to the local plan, which is the development plan for this location, bearing in mind that the neighbourhood plan has not yet reached a process whereby it can be afforded weight. Do members have in mind any local plan policies that they're trying to link it to? Policy C9 within the local plan is actually healthy communities, and it talks about all development proposals make a positive contribution, good quality accessible green spaces, safe, convenient and attractive networks of streets, local food grown spaces, healthy homes, high quality residential area, employment opportunities, avoidance over concentration of clustering, and good local air quality. While members may feel that that is a relevant policy, the only thing I would advise again is development proposals. So if we look at the principle of the development secured by outline and reserve matters, I'd just like to draw members' attention once again. It's not the removal of the open space, it's the removal of the play equipment.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. We've got the motion proposed and seconded. If that's what you want the motion to be.
Yes, on policy C9 then, please.
Now we need vote.
Okay, that's fine. We just need to get some wording for that actual for that proposal, so we can minute the actual refusal, and then we'll go to debate. Can we get some wording?
Okay, so I would like to propose refusal based on planning policy C9, as I believe that the removal of these conditions would be of detriment to the health and well-being of children growing up in the area.
Can we now have a vote on that motion, please?
Of order, Chair, we've got a motion in front of us. We're entitled to debate it before we vote it.
Okay, debated.
Thank you. I believe there's a compromise here, and I think we ought to take the opportunity of it. And what I was going to add before was to ask if Councillor Smith would consider a deferral in order to have what may well be one last attempt to get the developers, the parish council and ourselves around a table to see if we can't budge on what we hear is told, and sooner than make a radical decision which could be appealed, lost, challenged, whatever. Many times the good lady to my left has said we defer and it comes back better. I just think we ought to take that opportunity, and I was going to ask Rebecca if she would consider moving a deferral instead of her motion. I cannot see any harm in trying.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would be more than happy to change to moving a deferral. The only reason I proposed refusal was because I understood from the earlier debate that it may be pointless to go back to the parish council. So I am more than happy to change to moving a deferral. Thank you.
Sorry, just to confirm, Councillor Smith, so you've withdrawn the previous motion that you put forward to refuse, and are now
Yes.
raising a new motion to defer to allow conversation between the Borough Council, the Parish Council and the developer to see if an agreement can be reached.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Councillor Douglas is seconder. You're happy to second that again?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Point of clarification. Looking at this plan, I would like to know where the 600 metres, whereabouts on that development, the 600 metres starts. Because having been to the site several times, when it's come to committee, it's quite a long, lengthy site. And I'm just, quite anxious to know where the 600 metres comes in. Do we take a point in the middle, or?
Helen.
I'm sorry to be difficult, but
No, that's absolutely fine. So at paragraph 4.1.9 in the report, it says the centre of the application site is located approximately 600 metres from the equipped play area on Jubilee Park and 650 from the one on Glen Close, Asfordby. The centre of the site is approximately where that area of open space is located. So that's where I've taken the centre of the site to be.
that's where we as members, when we've gone on site visits, have gone, isn't it? Yeah, but then some of it's quite a way away.
Just to confirm,
I'm
yes,
sorry to be difficult,
it will
but-
measure different distances from different points
thank you.
within the site. So some houses will be closer to one play area, some houses will be closer to the other. So it was a central point.
Is there any more debate before we go to a vote on the motion? Sorry. Councillor Pritchett.
Quite happy to support the deferral, providing that we understand that the negotiations could involve a voluntary sum towards the existing play areas, which may be the preference of the parish council, not necessarily on site. So I'm quite prepared, and
Thank you, Councillor Pritchett. There would have to be some consideration as to what mechanism that would work under. You wouldn't be able to do it under Section 106 at this time, so I'm not sure how you would be able to do that.
So the idea eloquently put forward by Councillor Illingworth and supported by Councillor Smith was a deferment to sort it out on it, which would be on a voluntary basis. So are you telling us now there's not much point in deferring it?
No, not so. It could be done on a voluntary basis, but we won't
That's
be
what
able
I
to.
say. I've always said voluntary basis rather than a formal Section 106.
Okay, is there any more debate? Right, can we go to a vote on that motion, please? All in favour? I will abstain. I don't want to vote against. I know where you're all coming from. And I don't disagree with any of you, but planning is not totally an emotional matter. Okay, thank you. You can join us again, please. Two 1/01341, 2224 Pate Road, Melton Mowbray, and Andrew Cunningham is the officer who will present this to us. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a gym in the industrial, in the Leicester Road Industrial Estate. It seeks to remove condition 3 of the original planning permission that required noise to not exceed certain levels. Since the original planning permission was granted, new use classes order has been introduced, and both the original sort of light industrial use and the gym use now fall under the same use class E. As such, the condition is no longer considered reasonable, given that the change to a gym could have taken place without planning permission and without any associated planning conditions. Members may have concerns about sort of the increased noise that might come from the gym as a result of the removal of the condition. However, there are controls under environmental health, and they would be able to intervene to prevent that. There have been joint visits recently from the environmental health team and the planning enforcement team to assess sort of the noise levels, and they concluded that the noise wouldn't constitute a statutory nuisance, although of course this can be investigated further should further complaints be received. It's also worth remembering that the site is within an industrial location, and therefore there may be greater noise from adjacent units as opposed to from the gym itself. As such, the application is recommended for approval given the material planning considerations in situ as a result of the change in the use classes order, which now allows the gym to set up in an industrial location without sort of the need for planning permission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions for Andrew? Councillor Brown.
Yes, Andrew, reading this report and basically my earlier correspondence with Paul, basically there's no real grounds for us to refuse this. Am I correct in my thinking? Could I have a yes or no to that, please?
Yes.
Okay. So then again, really, just to make it clear to colleagues, am I correct in thinking that if we did anything other than approve it, i.e. we refused it, that would be detrimental to us as a planning authority, that decision?
Could I just elaborate a little bit?
Please, yeah.
So yes, your assumption is right, Councillor Brown. What we're looking at, again, a material planning consideration is what the opportunity is afforded to the occupier. Were there to be an application today, there would be no planning controls whatsoever. What Andrew said in his report is that that does not mean that there is now some sort of carte blanche for the occupier to ratchet up the noise because the planning condition has been removed. There is other legislation, and I think in fairness, probably more appropriate legislation than planning to actually control sort of noise limits. If we were to refuse this, it would be very difficult, I think, to justify that on appeal because of the nature of the general planning development order now. that just puts us in difficult territory in terms of potential costs. I'm not saying there would necessarily be a claim for costs. We would certainly put our best foot forward in trying to resist it, but I think we would be on a very challenging route to try to do that.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There are such things as noise limiters, are there not? Isn't that something that you?
Who are you asking the question of?
Am I asking any of the planning officers really? Because I know that we have one in Waltham Village Hall, and that has to be so it doesn't cause noise to cause problems to anybody. And if it's on an inside a building, surely you could have a noise limiter, couldn't you? I'm only asking the question.
Without knowing the details of the example you give, it may be that it's attached to some sort of license that's on the village hall. I don't know without seeing the detail, but it's a licensing matter, and in compromising the environmental health aspects of it there. That's the only thing I can imagine. I can't imagine that it would be part of the planning permission, but I don't know.
I can come back. It's a part of the planning permission that there is a noise limiter it's for public health, etc., etc. That's what it's. I was on the plan. I used to be on the village hall committee at Waltham, and if it makes a massive noise, it just everything goes off. Everything, it stops. So music or whatever, and it's always adhered to. It's fine, no problem.
Louise.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Holmes. So my thoughts there will be that it's attached to an environmental health or licensing issue, which Tom has made reference to. It sounds like it's a similar position to what's being discussed this evening. There's a current mechanism in place, as there is with the gym here. There's a mechanism in place that differs from planning legislation to ensure that that noise is monitored and enforceable. Through planning legislation, it's very difficult for us to enforce, hence the reason why we're recommending approval of the condition due to reasonable, necessary and enforceable. But again, that doesn't mean that there isn't other legislation such as public nuisance and environmental health that is a mechanism to look at that noise.
Clear, because I do remember, and I'm sure you remember, Madam Chairman, that there was a wood turning business up on Wicklow Avenue. Perhaps you can't remember it, and it didn't really make that much noise, but neighbours, it's in a very much houses all around it, and neighbours complained and complained. So the man had to have the doors shut all the time. So that there was no problem, or he had to move his business, and so that I mean that's something that we did. We actually gave a permission only because for his business to continue. So he had all the doors closed. I mean we've done it. So I can't see how things are going to change that much.
I can remember.
Was there a
that,
question there?
Yeah, that was it. That was asking the question. That's all.
Well, you weren't. You were talking about a wood turner. You weren't asking.
No,
a question.
I'm just making the position that we have done that sort of thing, and that's why I'd ask the question in the first place.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just Councillor Holmes, I think probably if we leave that to the debate, I think that'd be probably the best if that's okay with everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Chandler, had you got a question? No. Okay, thank you. Anybody got any more questions for Andrew? No, we can go on to debate then. Sorry, we've got speakers. The first speaker is Jeremy Watkinson. So if you can come forward to the table, Mr. Watkinson. Good evening. If you can press the face in the middle, that's it, your microphone's now on. You'll have 3 minutes and 30 seconds from the end. I'll just warn you, you're running out of time.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I own the property and offices and factory next to the gym. And for the last 3 years, we've had problems with the noise music levels from the gym. We've made complaints to the council, and environmental health came in and did 7 days of monitoring and set the noise restriction on the planning. We suggested noise limiters. We have them in our factory on our music system, and it locks out the noise at the required level. And the environmental health officer, after the planning condition was imposed, he came and he set an agreed level with the gym. A few weeks after that, it was ignored, and we've had that situation going on for the last 2 years. There's been actually 16 complaints I've made over the last 2 years to the council over it, and I've been made clear we're at the bottom of the priority list for environmental health. Monitoring was carried out last year by the planning officers, and their visits. It was clear that there was a problem, but it was only last month that environmental health carried out a British standard noise monitoring. That is very subject to its interpretation, and it's not really suitable for a noise that is problem that is varied and fairly random. Our own noise monitoring has recorded levels of 54 decibels over the last month, before and after the environmental health monitoring, and at that is double the sound level of the background noise, and it is causing my staff stress and ill health due to that music level. There really does need to be some method of controlling the noise from the gym. There's also a question over the land to the south of Kirby Lane as to whether that's residential, because a new industrial estate to the left of us has noise, has a noise assessment made, and environmental health have made comments on that, and that it needs to be conditions imposed for the future if that building is to go ahead. That is really all I'd say, except I think it needs looking
Thank you. If
into
you'd
in a
like
bit
to
more
stay
detail.
there for
Yeah,
a
sure.
couple of seconds. Any questions for Mr. Watkinson? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, you mentioned that environmental health have they actually said there's been a statutory breach?
Monitored the noise for 7 days, and he said at that point that there were reasons that they could have taken the gym to court over the noise levels, but the planning was going through, and he recommended that the noise condition was put in place, and it was quite a specific condition because it's an over a 15-minute time period. Most of the noise that we have from the gym is 10 to 15 minutes at the end of a class. There are days where we'll have it for the whole morning or for the weekend. The recent environmental health monitoring was set over an hour period. And that obviously doesn't really cover what is needed for a specific 10 to 15 minute high noise level.
Any other questions for Mr. Watkinson? No? Right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Watkinson.
Thank you.
I'd now like to ask Mr. Brendan McMullen to come to the table, please. As you've already heard me say, Mr. McMullen, if you press the face in the middle, your microphone will turn red at the top, and that means your microphone's on. You'll have 3
Right.
minutes to speak, 30 seconds before the end. I'll remind you. Thank you.
Okay. Evening, everyone. Thank you for that. Thank you for the comments from Mr. Watkinson. I just want to address those first. I think it's very important to make the point that random spot checks have been carried out by environmental health, and there is no evidence to suggest that there's ever been a breach. That's made quite clear in the report. Historically, there was a level set. The gym has adhered to that noise level. They haven't surpassed that. And again, spot checks have been taken out and there's no evidence to suggest that the noise levels have been breached. The proposals currently seek to remove the condition regarding the noise levels, consequent to a historic change of use application. The imposition of that condition is now considered punitive within the context of current planning legislation and permitted development rights. I think it's really important to set some context around the application and the nature of the gym. The class timetable operates for 1 hour classes starting at 6, 7, 9:30 a.m. 5 days a week, 5, 6 and 7 p.m. 5 days a week, and 12:45 3 days a week, with 2 morning sessions on the weekends. Music is not played continuously as part of an hourly class, but generally for only 20 minutes of each class. Again, this music does not exceed levels considered to be nuisance, and the gym has absolutely no wish to try and increase levels consequent to this application. Noise assessments, as I've said, have been carried out around the industrial estates on multiple occasions in accordance with the British Standard guidance to ensure that the gym was not posing nuisance to neighbouring properties, and on every occasion the measured levels were acceptable. CrossFit Panic does not wish to use this application to increase the noise levels in any way, and it's worth noting that the removal of any condition does not negate any obligation by the gym to abide by noise levels in accordance with the Environmental Health Act, which would be enforceable in any case. CrossFit Panic is an inclusive, community-spirited gym who wants to enrich people's lives and have responded positively on all occasions to any inquiries. And it is worth noting that there are a lot of surrounding businesses who have not complained or made
30 seconds left.
many representations against this application, other than Mr. Watkinson. And thank you for your time.
If you'd just like to stay there for a couple of seconds. Any questions for Mr. McMullen? Councillor Holmes?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't get your name, but so if this was taken off, I don't know what it will be, but if it was taken off, you would be quite happy to have a noise limiter in your building, would you?
I don't think there's any requirement for a noise limiter, because even if the condition was taken away, we would still need to stay within the constraints set by environmental health.
I just thought it might be helpful to you, so that sometimes things are a bit louder and, you know, it might just help for you. That was all.
Oh, I mean, it would be helpful if it could be demonstrated that we've ever breached any conditions or been above the parameters set by the British standards or environmental health. But as we've said on many occasions, and there's demonstrable information to demonstrate that we have never surpassed the levels.
Any more questions, anybody? No? Fine. Well, thank you very much, Mr. McMullen. Right, we're now over to debate. Anybody wish to say anything about this application? Councillor Illingworth?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, call me a cynic if you must. But if the existing conditions have never been broken, why do they need removing? And I can't help but think that the only reason to remove a condition that hasn't been broken is to then go and break the level that it previously set. If everything's working all right and operating within it, the condition is irrelevant because they're complying. That's all I have to say.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I think I'll probably repeat myself from earlier, but I think what we have in front of us is a decision to make based upon the fact that if we do anything other than approve it, although I'm not overly comfortable with it, because I think there's a means of having businesses that are similar in a similar area, but we've got that conflict that's potentially there, that could be there. But basically, we're completely dependent on our environmental colleagues to then carry out any enforcement action should that be the case and be required. Now, I do have to take on board the comments from the first speaker who basically said that they've been out recently in the last week or so, and maybe the officers could confirm if they had that discussion with the developer. But putting on, sorry, with their colleagues, sorry, to be absolutely clear, I mumbled there a little bit, but to be absolutely clear, I think, you know, we've got a business, businesses have to get on, we have to, what's the benefit of doing this? It's going to be cost to the council, it's going to be cost to all the parties involved, etc. Therefore, really based upon that and looking at logic and common sense, practice and legal processes, I'm going to propose that we propose the recommendation in this document, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Right, there's been a proposal made to go along with the recommendation. Councillor Wood has seconded that proposal.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you very much. Is there any more debate? Councillor Douglas.
Yes, when I actually visited the site area, I did notice that the very large door was open, and I assume that was because of the COVID pandemic situation that is still continuing. People feel so much better if they go to a gym where they've got the fresh air coming in. I certainly would. In fact, I quite like the look of it, but I could hear the music, I could hear the noise. When I read the paperwork, I thought, well, there aren't any residential areas around, people sleeping, day sleeping too. Is it the shift workers really suffer when there's daytime noise? But I haven't really considered the plight of other businesses in the area. With that door open, I think it makes a little difference to how I imagined it when I originally was part of the committee that put this forward. Originally, the idea of the gym in a business park. And now I'm not so sure, actually, because of this big door being open. Looks great, but I'm sure I'd be little, it depends what the nature of the businesses are around that area. So I'm still deliberating, but I just wanted to make a few comments about that door being open in current times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. I also went at the weekend to visit, and I went twice, different times of the day. And yes, the door was open, and that was fine because it was nice weather. They had got some music on, but I struggled to hear I couldn't name actually what they were playing. Now, I mean, it may have been that I didn't know the tune, but the music wasn't that loud that I could sit outside in the car park and actually say what it was they was playing. There was music in the background, but it certainly wasn't bounding out. Can I have a show of hands, all those in favour of that? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Refused. Sorry. Right, the proposal's carried. Thank you. Zero 0947 Debden Farm, Scawford. And Andrew, again, you're going to talk to that for us.
Thank you, Chair. For the PowerPoint. So this application proposes the demolition of the existing agricultural barns on the site and their replacement with 4 new dwellings. Next slide, please. The site already has consent under the prior approval Class Q process for 5 dwellings. That is the Class Q approval is not for consideration here tonight, but must be considered as the fallback position and compared against the proposal, which is for consideration. It's acknowledged that the site is detached in the open countryside, contrary to the strategic policies of the local plan and neighbourhood plan, but does benefit from that Class Q fallback position. The next slide, please, shows the existing barns on the site, which are proposed to be demolished as part of this application. And then the next slide shows their replacement with the two entrance properties here. If you can move on to the next slide, please, which sort of shows the development as a whole, showing the significant sort of visual benefits for the site and its surroundings. It provides a much more sort of cohesive layout and visually pleasing design when compared to that sort of fallback position. Members can also consider tonight whether it's reasonable to remove permitted development rights for sort of extensions and alterations to the dwellings to sort of retain its rural appearance. Next slide, please. Thank you. That sort of shows the development when approaching along Landyke Lane to the north, sat in the context of sort of the existing site and the surroundings. Other benefits of sort of the scheme when compared to that sort of fallback position are sort of the residential amenity areas being sort of actually delineated, the formal parking areas, visitor parking area, ecological mitigation, landscaping, buffers, hedgerows, and all of sort of these result in that improved designed development, which you sort of see here before you. So overall, the development is considered to be a betterment than that fallback position of the Class Q, and for that reason, it's recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions for Andrew, anybody? No? We've now got a Mr. Nick Baisley who wishes to speak on this application. Come forward to the table. Thank you very much indeed. If you'd like to press the face on your microphone, then you'll switch it on. Yeah, that's fine. Your microphone's on. You'll have 3 minutes and I'll warn you 30 seconds from the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, ladies and gentlemen. The principle of new residential development in this location has already been established via the various consents that have already been granted, which if completed would together create 5 additional dwellings on the site together with commercial offices. The scheme before you seeks only 4 dwellings in their place via the removal of all those unsightly buildings that you've just seen on the slides. It's therefore a case of what format of development is more appropriate, rather than whether the location of the site in the countryside, i.e. beyond the settlement, is acceptable. Your planning officers clearly prefer the scheme before you now, considering it a significant improvement over the consented Class Q and R schemes, and I hope you will agree. The applicant company is based in Long Clawson, is a local family business specialising in the development of high quality small residential schemes. Steve Willett, alongside his son Lloyd and their workforce, have a very good track record of delivering houses within the borough. The development is unashamedly contemporary, seeking to raise the standard of design in the rural area whilst remaining redolent of a converted farmstead to ensure that it will always be read convincingly within the landscape and remain respectful of its agricultural origins. The 4 new dwellings will replace all non-traditional buildings and secure a meaningful reduction in built footprint and volume across the site. And this, in addition to the high quality of the design and materials proposed, will secure a significant enhancement in visual terms to the benefit of the wider landscape. Whilst contemporary, the proposal will, through its design approach and use of traditional materials, remain locally distinctive and will hopefully be seen as a unique and innovative response to the more usual general house building that is often replicated up and down the country. By replacing the 5 dwellings and office already approved with just 4 dwellings, the proposed scheme will give rise to far fewer journeys to and from the site, which is significant from a sustainability standpoint. You'll also note that the local highway authority raises no objection to the proposal, nor are there any other objections from a technical standpoint. The grant of planning consent this evening will allow this local family developer to schedule in commencement of the development as soon as possible to provide a continuity of work for their workforce and to deliver a unique and high quality scheme which the council and the local community can be rightly proud. I hope therefore
30
that you'll
seconds.
be able to support your officer's clear recommendation this evening as a far superior and more appropriate form of development than would otherwise be created. And the premise of this balancing exercise is now firmly established in case law and is exactly the same basis on which members unanimously approved similar redevelopment proposals at Hall Farm Long Clawson for the same applicants, which is due to start on site imminently. If you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Baisley? Anybody? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
I may just have missed it in the report, but you're saying 4 dwellings. What's the spread of number of bedrooms across those 4 dwellings?
There are 3 3-bedroom properties, 1 2-bedroom property, and 1 5-bedroom property.
Any other questions? No? Oh, Councillor.
So how many dwellings are you proposing in total?
4 new dwellings in total.
And the one exists.
So there is there's an existing farmhouse which isn't part of this. There is a traditional range of agricultural outbuildings that's already got consent for a residential conversion. That's a 3-bedroom that has already got consent, and that's not part of this. So what this is doing is it's all of the non-traditional buildings that have got consent for 5 dwellings that we're replacing with 4.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Fine. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now we're open to debate. Who's going to start the debate? Councillor Chandler.
Got there now. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Our hands are tied on this one by case law. I can't see that we have any way that we can not go along with the recommendation. But I'm very saddened by this because they're not traditional farm buildings. Traditional farm buildings are brick and pan tile buildings. I mean, as I said at briefing on Monday, we've benefited from it. And we had permission for 4, we've done, and they've made into 3, but they are traditional. They've got pan-tiled roofs and they've got brick. These haven't, and
it's not also relevant, Councillor Chandler. Can you just talk about the development that we're?
I am talking about the development.
Sorry, if I can just come in. The Part Q has already been approved, yeah. So we can't consider the appropriateness of whether they are traditional buildings or not for that. It's only the application before you, I'm afraid.
With respect, Mr. Pickwell, it's going to cause a lot of problems in unsustainable villages that I represent, when people get refused planning applications because the area is unsustainable, and yet this Class Q now enables somebody to build 4 or 5 dwellings in a totally unsustainable location. And I know I shall have somebody on the phone tomorrow morning who'll be watching this tonight, who will come and really give me a hammering, because we've had, he had an application in the Vale of Belvoir, not in my ward, but in the Vale of Belvoir, refused. It went to appeal and it was thrown out because it was unsustainable location. Now, you know, it's very difficult for me to defend that. I'm an elected member and people come to me because they have concerns, and there are other rural members that will have the same problems. But no, I've got to go along with the recommendation because it's case law, and I'll move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. We've had a recommendation for permit. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'll second it. Can I say a few words or do you want to come back? Yeah. Yeah, I echo everything that Councillor Chandler says. I have the same issue in my own ward, and personally, I think this policy is flawed. I think the government should look at it in totality. And I concur with the comments of the parish council, that it goes into basically gerrymander the neighbourhood plan that they've got. The other point that I've got as well is, and maybe officer can confirm this, is that we approved this tonight. It looks like, again, as Councillor Chandler says, we've got no choice, but we're just below the level of unaffordable housing. We're 944 square meters, and we'll go up to 1,000 now. If is there any chance that the developer can come back again and say, actually, I'm going to bump that up to 1,200 square meters, etc., and they've basically mitigated and swung their way around this process? Would somebody be able to answer that?
Thank you. Yeah. So if they came in for a future application, which was either greater number of dwellings or greater number of floor space, then obviously, yeah, we can look at that and look at that trigger, whether it meets the threshold. My concern is that I've seen this before, where basically it wouldn't just be allowed to happen on a variation, would it? It would be no, because the variation of condition is a fresh planning permission where we can consider that sort of threshold. And that
Even
trigger.
with class Q, yeah, just.
But well, I suppose the class Q is not for consideration. It's the full planning application.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I've got
there's also the option to remove the permitted development rights for sort of extending and altering buildings as well.
Can I move?
Yeah.
Are you willing to second remove? Maybe
Councillor
we have to
Chandler?
add that on, that we withdraw the permitted development rights,
Yes.
because Councillor Brown's.
Happy to also second that. Thank you, Councillor Chandler.
I've had a proposal. Oh, Councillor. We've had a proposal to permit, and that has been seconded. Any debate now? Councillor Pritchett?
Looking at the presentation tonight, the portal, the documents, I echo first of all what Councillors Chandler and Brown have said. It's the first time I've been impressed, and given the circumstances of the buildings, they're not traditional buildings that are being barn conversions. The actual characteristics of these new ones, I was very impressed with. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchett. Sorry,
Sorry, can I just check with the proposer and seconder, the removal of permitted development rights? Are we saying all classes, so porches all the way through, or is there specific elements?
We are, yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, it is now. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I haven't said anything. It is in my ward. I haven't said anything on purpose. I do totally agree to take the permitted developments rights way is actually right. I do know that the developer does do an excellent job. So I would hope that, and I like to see that there is a mix with smaller houses, which to me in a rural setting is the ideal, because there are still rural workers. So anyway, I would just like to say to everybody that I'm sure a good job will be done. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors. Yes, a very good development, but next door neighbours, a big farm there, obviously a lot of machinery early in the morning, a lot of smells and that sort of thing. Are the new residents of these proposed things be aware of that? Will there be a comeback on the farm next door?
I don't really know, but I would imagine if you're going to live next door to a farm, you'd expect it. You know, I mean, it's like people, yeah, people go and move into a village, they live next door to the church and then complain because the church bells ring. So, you know, you buy a property and you take what comes with it, don't you? If you go with your eyes open. Councillor Pritchett.
Just to mention that Rushcliffe Borough Council Planning Department refused a planning application on an allocated site because it was within 100 feet of very close to a working farm with flies and everything, and said it was a nonsense to build. That's a different set of circumstances, but it does have an impact.
Right, if there's no more debate, then it's been proposed for permit. It's been seconded. Can I have a show of hands who's in favour of permit? That is unanimous. So thank you very much indeed. There is no urgent business, so I can close the meeting at 7:30. And thank you all for your attendance and for your comments, and have a safe journey home. Good night.